Hi. Oh, hi.
Hello,
Hello.
how are you?
How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm going to do a quick intro to the program. I want to thank everyone for joining us for office hours today. I'm Jess Ling. I lead marketing strategy, engagement, and enablement at American Express. And for those of you who haven't joined us before, office hours is really where entrepreneurs and experts come to answer questions and talk about how they run and grow a business today. June is Pride Month. And I could not think of a better person to kick off the month and celebrate with than the fabulous and talented Trixie Mattel. So without further ado, because I know there are a lot of people here who are super interested in hearing more from Trixie, tell us more about you. Tell us a little bit more about Trixie overall, and then also tell us about what you're up to from a business perspective.
Well, I'm Trixie Mattel. I'm an American comedian, drag queen, musician, and I guess entrepreneur. And I love obviously entertaining and dressing up. And I'm happy I created this character that I get to tour all over the world with for 10, 15 years now. But I'm also a kind of like a nerd when it comes to creating and watering and growing my businesses. And I'm a bar owner. I own a thriving cosmetics company. I recently purchased a motel. Um, I get as passionate about business as I do about entertaining.
And I can't wait to talk about all of those because, just like you said, you have this incredible breadth of experience. But take us back to the beginning. Where did you get your start, and what are the origins of Trixie Mattel?
Wow, there's so many people here. Hi, 2,700 of everyone. Welcome. Well, you have to imagine I was 18 years old. I'd moved from the country and I was living in the city for the first time. And I was doing the Rocky Horror Picture Show because I didn't really know I wanted to do drag, but there was something in this midnight in a movie theater environment where people weren't really doing drag, but it was your dad was wearing a bra and somebody's dressed up in a Frankenstein mask and covered in blood, high heels. There was something foolish, but also kind of sexy and sort of forbidden about it. And for me, as an inhibited gay kid from the country, it was just very it was like daring myself to be a little more wacky, I guess. And then I did that through college. So, 18, 19, 20, I'm still, I wasn't quite working in nightclubs yet, but I was dressing up and working all the time. And by the time I finished college, I had gotten my degree in performing in nightclubs and had become kind of lucrative. So it was a great way for me to tackle my student loans after college.
I
That's
mean, that makes a ton of sense. And you sort of started, as you just said, as an entertainer and a performer, but then you really started to expand into business. Talk a little bit about maybe some of the obstacles that you've had to overcome as you've thought about, cosmetics, motel, owning a bar. What has that been like for you?
well, for me, it's always I'm a little bit stubborn, and I think one of my best qualities is that for better or for worse, I really believe in myself. On one hand, I'll take a risk with a business. On the other hand, on tour, I will tell a joke for 30 cities before I decide that maybe it's not funny. I just really commit to something when I feel good about it. And as an employee, when I worked in restaurants, when I worked at makeup counters, when I was a delivery driver, I worked in a cigar store. I've always been the type of person that I love selling. I mean, I some of us truly actually like selling things. Um, and I always have my own 2 cents. So when I worked at the makeup counter, a product would come out and I would be like, "Oh, I love it." I would have changed the scent, the name, and the finish. Just I always have my own version mentally of what I would have done. Even when I was waiting tables, I'd always be like, "Well, this is how I think we should do this." I always am just trying to see things in the way that's the most efficient. And as a business owner now, I get to sort of take that hopefully the most gracious version of a know-it-all attitude and try to lead a group and recognize holes in, let's say, the makeup industry that I think
Yeah.
exist that I filled in.
So, you just sort of really quickly talked about being passionate in a lot of different areas and, whether that's as a business owner, as a singer-songwriter, as an author, like tell us a little bit, like, how do you juggle all of these ideas in your mind? How do you prioritize? How do you think about what you're going to do next? Tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, I am 31, so I'll say that, working all day 4 hours of sleep was a little bit easier at 21. But, for a drag queen, 31 is like geriatric. So, for me, it becomes really a balance of like, how much can I possibly work and still save hours of the day for my relationship, sleep, exercise, and diet.
Yeah.
And not to be boring, but like certain balance things become more pronounced, like I'm so committed to my work and my businesses. When certain things fall out of balance, you can feel it everywhere else. That day where I don't get enough sleep, oh my God, do I feel it on the Zoom the next day? Or like, when I have to talk on Zoom all day and perform at night, oh my God, when I get on stage, do I feel a little tired from talking all day? So it just becomes a balancing act of how do I stay rested, but also stay inspired, because there is a such thing as when you're creating all the time, my bread and butter, besides being a performer, when I'm not living, it's hard to create jokes and songs about my real life, because there's certain parts where my real life starts to be a little more, oh yeah, well, what should I write about? Being on a Zoom call? Not relatable. Actually, yeah, relatable. So for me, it's just always a balance of how do I maintain enough real life to stay inspired. And my little trick recently has been a lot of trips to my hometown in Milwaukee, spending time with my family. I have a tiny little 400 square foot industrial condo there where I have nothing but like internet and my guitar. And so I go there and just work on music.
That sounds really nice. I have to switch gears a little bit because your makeup is just fabulous, and we just need to sort of
Well, thank
pause
you.
on that for a second. I love the close-up. Amazing. And
Yeah,
I
I
think
mean,
it would be really...
this is unfiltered. I mean, I guess I could turn on a filter, right? I mean, is it okay to
I
be
don't think you
vulnerable on
should.
the American Express Live and perhaps just have no filter? Look at me,
Go
beautiful.
no filter. It looks great to me.
Yeah.
Talk a
I mean,
little bit about
drag. Certain parts of drag have gotten easier, the longer you do too. So the 3 hour makeup job in the beginning of my career is now like an hour 10 makeup job. So certain parts of being experienced leaves more time for real life as well.
you found some efficiencies. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about, because we just had an amazing look at the makeup up close. Tell us about Trixie Mattel Cosmetics. Like, tell us about sort of, how did that first pop up as a business for you?
Well, even when I was 18 years old, living really like student loan to waiting tables, paycheck to paycheck, I was always a product junkie. I love the beauty industry. I'm a product nerd. When I get a new product, I'm reading the ingredients. I want to know what other people think about it. I'm reading reviews of it. I love the discourse of like people talking about one person's favorite product is someone else's worst product they've ever used. And I like that with makeup especially, people have totally different wants, needs, desires, experiences. But working at Ulta, Sephora, MAC, working at all these makeup counters for so long, I had a front row seat 40 hours a week of watching people shop for makeup. And I realized that your mom who wears brown mascara and chapstick and me, a professional nightclub entertainer, we have a lot of similar wants and desires. We want something that's priced fairly, that works well, and is easy, if not like fun to use. People like a little fun in their makeup bag. And with Trixie Cosmetics, I just was like, well, I love pro formulas and I love toy packaging. And for me, I didn't see anything in the world where you could get your makeup artistry, like industry standard pro formula, in like a compact that makes you think of being a kid. And so that was always the goal for me,
Yeah.
because if drag has taught me anything, packaging matters.
I love that. I love your sort of talking through how you bring your passion to an area that was really important to you, and thinking about not just what's inside the box, but sort of how it comes to life, how it's delivered. That makes a ton of sense.
Mm-hmm.
What was your favorite thing about starting the business?
I'll tell you The first lipstick we did called Stacy, which just relaunched this week in a vegan formula. It's like a hot, hot pink. When that came out, it was such a process because, I'd only ever sold, I worked at a Macy's. I would check in the product and then sell it to people. So my knowledge of like the life cycle of a product from idea to the makeup shelf is so much longer than you think. I can't even tell you. It was so much longer than I even could imagine. And so when our first lipstick, Stacy, came out and I had it in my hands and it was in the perfect color, heart-shaped tube, the exact shade I wanted, I can't even, like, the accomplishment from a little lipstick tube, I'll never forget the feeling of just holding it and being like, we did it. I did it. This is crazy. I mean, I used to drive my little smart car to Mayfair Mall in Milwaukee and sell makeup, and I loved it. And to be able to make makeup, that's like, any makeup nerd out there will tell you that their wildest dreams, they've thought about having their own makeup company. It's definitely one of those pinch me moments that continues to be pinchable because I'm always like, this is crazy. It's crazy what we get to do.
I mean, it's really amazing to think about having an idea, seeing it come to life, really being able to look at every sort of element of how it comes to life, right? You just sort of spoke a lot about the pride you have in being able to see every part of bringing your product to life. When you've thought about the pandemic, right, and we think about right now being a performer over the past couple of 18 months has been really tough. How did you think about that in terms of your career, like shifting from doing maybe less performing to more focus on your cosmetics business? Like what has the past 18 months been like for you?
Well, I've always been I don't struggle with substance abuse, but they have that thing, the Serenity Prayer, where they talk about having the wisdom to like know what you can control or whatever. And I always think like, all right, all my tours have been moved for a year. What can I control? What can I do? I was able to make YouTube videos applying makeup. I was able to work on makeup product. I was able to write up a whole new record I'm working on. I'm always just focused on, all right, this is sad, whatever's out of our hands, this is a bummer. But what can I actually do today that will leave me going to sleep inspired, exhausted, and like feeling like I did something? And drag queens especially, I mean, queer people in general, but drag queens especially, we're not used to having every amenity. I mean, at a drag show, it can be a barn light and a milk crate and a broken jukebox, and we're supposed to make a show out of it. We're used to sort of like making it work.
Is there anything in this time where you've had to sort of make it work that you thought, okay, pandemic or not pandemic, I'm going to do this forever?
Oh yeah, I have to tell you, when the pandemic started, when I first started my YouTube channel, which everybody should subscribe to, we had a couple 100,000 followers, I think, and I used to pay a camera and sound person to come over and film and do all my filming and do all my sound for me and everything. And when COVID started, I was like, well, I'm isolated. I guess I have no excuse not to learn how to run cameras. So I gave myself like a 2-week period where I did nothing but drill YouTube videos and read instructional like manuals on how to operate cameras. I had to learn about sound, lighting, editing. I mean, I learned Final Cut. A lot of my YouTube videos I still okay. And at first it was daunting, but looking back, it totally transformed the way I make YouTube videos because now that I know how to work cameras and sound, it's given my creativity with my YouTube channel so much more like freedom because I know I can get inspired at 11 p.m. on a whim and sit in front of this camera in here and make a video, and I don't necessarily have to plan it or pay someone else, or I can just really get inspired for myself. I love making YouTube videos. It's funny because after doing on the Wild Presents Network and Queens I Like to Watch on Netflix, I've been on YouTube for so long, but I'd never been a YouTuber in the sense of shooting my own videos in my house. And I had no idea how much I would love it. It's like my favorite thing to do now.
And I think that's sort of a trend we've been hearing, right? Of people figuring out how to do things on their own, figuring out how to build things and be scrappier. I mean, you've talked about YouTube and learning Final Cut. I mean, that's a lot to add to an already sort of expansive.
I mean, I haven't used Final Cut since I haven't used editing software since 6 years ago when I edited my Drag Race audition video on iMovie. So like I knew nothing about video. So like, but you know, I had all this downtime, and I think it was a great time to like, one of my friends in Milwaukee, he works at a store called Dave's Guitars, and I said, how's business been? He said, honestly, during lockdown, which is lifting finally, he said a lot of people bought a lot of guitars because when you have all this time, well, how about that thing I've been putting off that I've been making excuses about, you know? So I think, you know, that was my learning guitar, was like learning how to make videos, learning how to shoot on cameras. And it also has made me like, cameras are a little spooky if you're not used to being on camera. It's this glass, it's pointed at you, it can feel like a weapon somehow. But using cameras myself every day now I go on set and I'm not intimidated or camera shy whatsoever. So it's interesting that like learning the anatomy of a camera and operating it, now I'm not nervous at all ever, you know.
I think that's great. I think to your point on people picking up new things during the pandemic and playing guitar, learning new skills, I think that's something that we're hearing all the time. So it's great to hear you say that. Let's talk a little bit about influences in your life. Who do you turn to it for advice about business?
Oh, well, as an entertainer, I tend to turn to, you know, Bianca Del Rio and I are not close. Like, we're not best friends. We're friends, but like, we don't hang out. We don't like, you know, text every day. But she's somebody I'll call when I have questions about touring or questions about, you know, the business of touring as a drag queen, because we both do larger venues. And then when I have music sort of like questions, I'll talk to my friend Orville Peck, who's a very famous musician. So I kind of go to people for their skill set a little bit. Just today I was looking at a wig I have to clean. Like, oh, I'm gonna text my wig maker to be like, how do I actually clean a wig? I know how I'll try to do it, which is like throw 20 chemicals on it and hope for the best. But like, how do you actually do it? So I'm very lucky to have people in my life that I think are very specialized in what they do. I mean, even Katya, I talk to her more when I need to remember to take a break. Because sometimes she'll just tell me like, you are doing too much. Like you can calm down for a day, you know? And I'm like, she's right. That would have never occurred to me.
So you've got a lot of influences in your life, people you can call. What's the best advice you've ever gotten?
My favorite advice is know what you're worth and demand 3 times that, which is of course crazy. But, you know, in entertainment, I work in an industry where I have to ask to be paid. I mean, that's what it is. When you work in entertainment, you have to ask to be paid. Otherwise, you know, you even now, 15 years in my career, I get opportunities all the time where they're like, it's an honor. You should just do it. And then I have to go, can I have some money? And they go, okay. And it's like, well, if you didn't ask for pay, you would have got nothing. So learning to advocate for myself as a young woman, I feel like in America, at least, we're not encouraged to like lean in and advocate for ourselves and ask to be paid and say when we think we're doing a great job and we should be paid more. And I think everybody should do that. I hope that the youngest generation, people getting their first jobs, 18, 20, will do that and be like, I deserve to be paid well. I deserve to, and I should feel allowed to talk about my salary or, you know, things like that.
Yeah, I think the whole sort of conversation around advocating for yourself, asking for what you know you deserve. I mean, it's hard no matter who you are and how you come up in the business world. And so I think that that's advice that resonates for a lot of people.
Oh my God, my husband just popped in when I said we should ask to get paid more money, and he walked in and looked at me and wrote a note down and walked out. Let me clarify, everybody should ask to get paid more except him. Except people who work for me. No, I'm just kidding.
So Trixie, there are a lot of people here who I think you inspire. Talk about someone who really inspires you. You don't have to know them, whether it's someone who's in your life or not in your life, but from a business perspective, who inspires you? Who do you look up to?
From a business perspective, I mean, it's kind of a boring answer, but my manager, his name's David Charpentier. He's my entertainment manager, and he's been my manager for 3 years. And he's sort of like, you know, a prodigy when it comes to contracts and knowing what amount of money to ask for, or, you know, he's always like my go-to in that sense. And then there's a few people in my life who just are actual businessmen who really inspire me, because the art, like, it's a weird balance of being like a scientist about numbers and being kind of an artist about your endeavors that makes like a great business person. And I'm always in awe of people who, like, you know, my friend Lisa Vanderpump. Lisa Vanderpump owns so many businesses. I mean, Lisa Vanderpump is up at 6 in the morning buying fresh cut flowers for all the vases at Pump in West Hollywood. What? Lisa Vanderpump, you know, extremely successful and wealthy, and she still finds time to fine tune in the details of her own businesses. And I always want to be, as a business owner, that tuned in. I think it's very charming and important, and you know, you want to walk the walk. Another thing is, my bar in Wisconsin, my co-owner, George Schneider in Wisconsin, he might own the bar. He's owned the bar for, you know, years and years and years. I like an owner who's not afraid to that day take out all the trash and just make sure, you know, even though he's in charge of everyone technically, he'll do any job anyone's doing there. And I think as a business owner, it's always important to be the type of person who, like, if everyone called in, I guess you're the dishwasher that day. You know, I guess you're bussing tables. I get, you know, not being afraid to really go in there and do it.
Tell me a little bit about, so let's focus on the bar a little bit. What sorts of decisions are you facing? You know, as you just talked about your partner really digging in, what sorts of areas do you feel like you've got to make the big decisions? Is it hiring? Is it space? Is it, what are you stocking? Like, how do you approach it?
Well, it's been interesting both with the makeup company and with my bar, because we're seeing bars open up, right? So we're going from a year of uncertainty to like business overnight. I mean, I was at my bar in Wisconsin Sunday. There was lines down the block and blocks away to get in. The entire alley was full of people. We were at capacity for probably 6 hours. And to go from that just a few months ago of being like, will queer spaces ever return? That's been a big shift. And then at the makeup company, it was interesting because we're new. My makeup company is only 2 years old. We went from making the minimum quantity of products, only a couple products at a time, a couple products a year. Now we're at the point where every time we launch something, it sells out. We can't keep anything in stock. So people who shop with us are like up at 10 a.m. refreshing the site just so they can get a piece of makeup before it's gone. But makeup also takes so long to make. A makeup palette, say you want to make a makeup palette, that's a year and a half of work, easily. So by the time Bottle Blonde came out, what, a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, we started there's a picture of me testing a purple eyeshadow from Bottle Blonde on a red carpet in 2019. I planned, now when it comes out, is nothing. So like, it's just been hard with the very lucky business growth to like actually keep up with that type of demand.
Yeah, it's been a crazy amount of growth for you. What's next for the cosmetics business for you? Like, what are you excited about? When you think about the future, what gets you really excited?
Well, we basically have products coming out every month for the rest of the year. I mean, we have products planned out. We have products and collections planned out through next summer. We're already working on like holiday of like next year, because makeup takes so long to make. So, I mean, we're talking palettes, lip colors, lipstick, new types of products. I mean, I don't want to say, but like all types of stuff, all types of products are coming out. So that's been on the agenda. Because I'll tell you, even though people were home for a year, not at work, people still did like to wear a lot of makeup. I mean, I can't tell you, people wore makeup like crazy this year. They bought a lot of makeup. And we really have every type of product coming out. A million. I mean, we can't even keep up with it. We've been hiring nonstop just to try to get more people who want to work in this like amazing company.
That's amazing. Let's talk a little bit about self-care. We're going to pivot a little bit because I think there are a lot of people who are interested in what self-care means to you. What do you think people get wrong about it, and what do you think they get right about it? And how do you sort of take care of yourself, and what are some of those rituals?
Well, for some people, self-care can be like, I like yoga or like exercise or some version of actual, maybe more mainstream. If self-care for you is watching the Bad Girls Club with the sound turned off, listening to Jessica Simpson, eating Cheetos, that's also self-care, you know? For me, I like a good balance of, if we're being honest, the ultimate self-care for me is like once a month, I'll choose a day where I like, stay in bed and watch television. Just like once a month, but that's it. That's my version of
I love that. I
self-care.
think we should all give ourselves permission to stay in bed all day and just watch TV. I think that's a good ritual.
But for you, of self-care is probably a bang trim, because you probably have to get those perfect bangs trimmed like every 2 weeks.
Every 2.5 weeks, to be very precise about it. It
That's
takes a
life.
it's a commitment,
How did you
especially in the
handle it?
pandemic.
Ask.
What did you say? Sorry, you froze for a sec.
How did you handle the bangs during COVID? Did you trim yourself?
Friends and family. No. I do not trim my own bangs. I had an intervention a long time ago where they said no more self bang trims. Get some help.
Yeah. Get some help.
So, Trixie, we've got some questions from the audience. It's a very engaged group of people watching us today. What would you say to someone who wants to start a business and has no idea where to start?
Well, make sure that whatever you're doing, you love doing it, even if you never make money doing it. I think that's the most important thing. It's going to be great if you make money selling funky jewelry, but you better hope you love making funky jewelry if no one buys it. I think that's like pretty clear. Like when we made Stacy, we started with 5,000 lipsticks, and I remember thinking, all right, either these will sell, and if they don't, I guess I have this great lipstick for the rest of my life. Like I'll never run out. I'll be giving them out to friends forever. So that was like the biggest thing is, if you want to start a business, make sure that whatever you're doing, you love doing, even if the money's never great. Drag queens now are thought of these like famous, rich characters. There was not a lot of money in drag, and still isn't. I loved doing drag because I loved it, not because I thought I would ever like buy a house or be Trixie Mattel like I am now. I loved it before. I loved it when I was doing it for free for years. Loved it. So that's the biggest thing.
So find something you love and start there. As you've grown and sort of thought about different areas, you can't do it all, right? So how do you think about delegating, sharing responsibility? How is that for you?
Well, it requires a lot of trust, which I don't always have. Because, nobody's gonna, I don't want to say a swear word, but Bob the drag queen always says, no one's going to care about your thing like you care about your thing. So you do have to be lucky enough to have people around you who care about what you're doing beyond the paycheck, I guess.
Yeah.
Like people who will go to the mat for you, people who know your vision and care. And for me, being Trixie, I've gotten lucky getting surrounded by so many people who, they like a paycheck, of course. They like when we go to Europe or something cool. But they also like the mission statement of putting on a wig and telling jokes and acting foolish. There's an important mission statement there, and people like to be involved with that. So being able to trust people to collaborate with and lean on gets easier when you all have like a really shared mission statement,
I think that makes total sense. The more you grow, the more important it is to have people around you who you really trust to be that ambassador for the vision. All right, we've got one last question, Trixie. You've talked about launching a ton of new products. Tell us, where do the ideas come from? So as you think about what's next, and you talked about how excited you are, where did it all come from? What inspires the next product that comes from you?
Inspiration really comes from everywhere. And as you can see in the chat, the people who follow me they're wacky in their own right. They're wacky jackies. So they like that I'm a makeup brand who's not afraid to name a product I'm Baby. You know, like I like owning the brand because I like making bizarre choices with names or like concepts or like some of the stuff we have coming out. You guys, we have a palette coming out in, I believe, early August that by far has the weirdest name I've ever seen on a makeup palette, ever. And through like the trust I've gotten with the people who buy my makeup, it's like every time I make something, I'm like, well, what if we're like more foolish? What if the thing we do next is even weirder? Because people like to, and the makeup industry is so homogenized and it's so inundated with similar product. I don't want to buy a red lipstick called Red. I just really don't. You know, like that's not interesting to me. I want like a red lip color that tells me a little more story, that gets me excited about almost like playing a character in makeup. And so when we create our product, we don't just talk about making makeup. We talk about telling the story. We think about our makeup launches like you would think about a movie trailer or like launching a book. We really try to think of it as like, can we tell this narrative where people are like, I want to be a part of that. I want to climb right through that phone into that photo shoot and be a part of it. You know, like in Bottle Blonde, that shoot of us under these hair dryers and all pastels. I'm like, I want people to believe they want to be in this salon with us right now. And I think we do a really good job of that. I mean, we get comments all the time that are like, when Dave Mills came out, they were like, I've never even worn blue eyeshadow, but this campaign, I'm obsessed. I have to wear it. So makeup gets me excited is makeup that tells a story. And at Trixie Cosmetics, we really try to be storytellers. That's our main thing. I would say we talk about the narrative and the story as much as we talk about things like formula and shade and price point and all that.
So are you going to tell us the name of the new product, or are you going to keep us all waiting?
You'll have to wait and see. I mean, we just had a launch last week. We had a compact, a purse, and a wallet come out, and our relaunch of our vegan lipstick Stacy. But in August, I'll say this. It's a palette. It's as cool as Bottle Blonde, bigger, even more. So it's kind of our big summer offering. Bottle Blonde was sort of our spring collection, and our big summer offering is cool. Really cool. And it's a new high as far as like the most foolish shade names we've ever done. The daddiest dad jokes, on, like left field references. It's foolish. So I can't wait for you guys to get into that. It's gonna be great. I've been wearing.
Cannot wait. Cannot wait to see it hit the shelves.
Because I'm usually testing product up until it comes out. So if you see me like an orange eyeshadow, chances are there's probably an orange eyeshadow coming out in 2 months, you know.
All right, so I'll be looking for some silver and some blacks and some darks coming out of your collection soon.
Well, this is actually vintage. This is a glitter. This is Carol Ann, which was a silver glitter, which is named after the girl from the movie Poltergeist. That's what I mean.
I know exactly who Carol Ann is. That's awesome.
You get to do your own thing. You get to make references that, you know, maybe just you got. And I love that. I love that you were probably the that was.
No, I got it. Trixie, I think you leaving us excited for what's next is the perfect place to close. To the audience, thank you so much for joining us. Trixie, it was an absolute pleasure speaking with you. So much fun. For those of you who want more, check out americanexpress.com/business class, and we'll see you real soon. Thank you so much.
Of course. Bye. Bye, everybody.
Talk soon.